You can have my entire company if you beat me with that piece of junk. Marcus Sterling's voice sliced through the corporate parking garage, echoing off concrete walls. Every head turned. An elderly maintenance worker stood there, calm as Sunday morning, holding keys to a weathered 1967 Mustang that looked like it had survived 3 decades in a barn. Phones came out instantly. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Why would Sterling risk everything on a race? And why did the old man accept without hesitation? What happened next would become the most viral moment in Silicon Valley that year. But before we dive in, hit that subscribe button. Your support fuels these stories. And trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Now let's get into it. Marcus Sterling thrived on dominance. He loved watching employees scatter when his cherry-red Porsche 911 Turbo rolled into the executive lot each morning at Tech Vision Industries in Palo Alto. But that Thursday afternoon, his routine shattered. His reserve spot, the one with the bronze nameplate in primo view, sat occupied by a faded forest green 67 Mustang that looked like it belonged in a junkyard, not next to six-figure cars. He stopped mid-stride. His venture capital guests stopped with him. One investor muttered, "Who had the nerve to park that here?" Sterling's jaw clenched. California heat radiated off the asphalt, mixing with the smell of old engine oil leaking from the Mustang. A handful of employees lingered nearby, exchanging glances the way people do when the office routine suddenly gets interesting. The Mustang's owner, an elderly black maintenance worker named James J.T. Turner, approached the vehicle with unhurried steps, a set of worn keys dangling from his belt loop. He didn't acknowledge the growing audience. He simply pulled a rag from his pocket, wiped his hands, squinted at the sun-faded paint, and reached for the door handle. Sterling stepped forward. "You parked." "Here." J.T. looked up, momentarily puzzled, then nodded. "Other spots were full, sir." Sterling laughed, sharp, performative. "You thought parking your antique next to a Porsche was appropriate?" His guest shifted uncomfortably. Someone's phone camera activated. A hushed voice whispered, "This is about to go viral." J.T. didn't react. He adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses and checked the Mustang's side mirror like this was just another Thursday. That composure irritated Sterling more than any argument would have. He moved closer, voice dropping to that dangerous register where privilege meets confrontation. "Do you understand who runs this place?" "Doesn't change where the empty space was," J.T. replied. His tone stayed respectful but firm. More employees drifted over, forming a loose semicircle. Someone smirked. A guy in a hoodie muttered, "Old man's about to get destroyed." Sterling fed off the attention. He gestured at both vehicles. "Tell you what, since you're bold enough to park next to me, let's make this memorable." He leaned against his Porsche, grin widening. "Race me. If that dinosaur beats my car, I'll sign over my company." The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. "Is he serious? No way he just said that." J.T. blinked slowly, processing the absurdity. "You want a race over a parking spot?" "No," Sterling corrected, tapping his Porsche's hood. "I want to show these gentlemen what real engineering looks like." Phone cameras captured his reflection on the polished paint. "So what's it going to be?" J.T. studied the Mustang. His weathered fingers tapped the metal hood twice, a thoughtful, deliberate gesture. Then he met Sterling's eyes. "You're certain about this?" The crowd pressed closer. A warm breeze carried the scent of tire rubber and California eucalyptus through the garage. Sterling nodded, confidence radiating. "Absolutely." J.T. gave one small shrug. "All right then." The whispers exploded. Phones angled higher. That electric silence descended, the kind that precedes stories people retell for years. And just like that, the race everyone would discuss for months began with a single nod from a man who never raised his voice. News spread through Tech Vision's 5-story building faster than their fiber-optic internet. By the time they relocated to the empty access road behind the facility, a trail of employees followed, buzzing like they were chasing the season finale of a reality show. "He's actually racing the Janitor?" someone asked. Another replied, "Sterling's ego finally wrote a check his ass can't cash." Nervous laughter rippled to the crowd, but underneath lurked anticipation. the sense that something messy was about to unfold. JT didn't engage with the chatter. He opened the Mustang's hood with practiced ease, the hinges groaning in protest. A faint smell of vintage gasoline wafted out. He reached inside, tightening a belt, checking fluid levels, adjusting a clamp. Simple, methodical movements. No anxiety, no showmanship. His breathing remained steady, like he performed his routine for 40 years without fanfare. Sterling circled his Porsche, basking in attention. "Feast your eyes on German precision," he announced to his investors. 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds. He ran his palm across the hood, ensuring every camera captured the moment. 640 horsepower. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Phones tracked his every move like he was center stage at a product launch. JT closed the Mustang's hood and wiped the smudge from the windshield. "Seems like a lot of fuss for a quick race," he said quietly. One employee snorted. "Grandpa's got jokes." Sterling smirked. "Let him talk. He'll be eating my dust in 30 seconds. He slid into the Porsche and revved the engine. The sound detonated across the asphalt, aggressive, commanding, impossible to ignore. Several people flinched at the raw power. JT didn't flinch. He eased into the Mustang's driver's seat, adjusting it like he was preparing for a leisurely Sunday drive. He tapped the dashboard twice with 2 fingers, a tiny ritual no one understood. A group of workers gathered at the makeshift starting line, trying to organize the chaos. One whispered, "This is insane. He's racing a man old enough to be his grandfather." Another added, "Sterling's going to milk this for a month." The California sun beat down mercilessly, heat waves shimmering off the concrete. Sweat beaded on foreheads. The crowd compressed tighter, forming a ragged semicircle behind the vehicles. Someone muttered, "Crazy how chill the old dude is." Sterling rolled down his window. "Hope that thing even starts," he called out. JT didn't look over. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel and exhaled once, slow, controlled. A supervisor raised her hand. "On my signal." The Porsche's engine rumbled like contained thunder. The Mustang's motor gave a softer, uneven purr in comparison, a sound that made several people chuckle. JT kept his gaze forward, unblinking. 3, 2, 1, go! Sterling launched forward, tires screaming, the car exploding off the line like it was auditioning for Fast and Furious. The crowd cheered as he rocketed down the quarter-mile stretch. JT pulled away smoothly. No dramatic launch, no tire smoke, just a steady acceleration that matched the rhythm of his pulse. People laughed. "He's not even trying." Another voice said, "Man, this is going to be painful to watch." But JT didn't look embarrassed. He looked focused, eyes locked ahead, hands positioned at 10 and 2. And for reasons no one could articulate, that quiet focus made several people stop laughing. Sterling's Porsche devoured the access road, engine screaming its mechanical war cry. The crowd jogged after both vehicles from a safe distance, phones thrust skyward, capturing every second. People shouted predictions, placed imaginary bets, argued about how quickly Sterling would win. Nobody questioned the outcome. Halfway down the route, the Porsche's symphony changed. A sharp sputter interrupted the roar. Sterling's smile faltered. He pressed the accelerator harder. The pedal resisted. A warning light illuminated the dashboard. Then another, then 3 more in rapid succession. The engine coughed violently, shaking the entire frame. "Not now," Sterling hissed. He slapped the steering wheel, a nervous tic he didn't realize he had. Heat radiated from the engine bay, flooding the cabin with an acrid metallic smell. He attempted one final acceleration. The Porsche lurched forward, shuddered dramatically, then died completely in the middle of the lane. Silence consumed him. The cameras were still distant, but he knew they'd arrive soon. Sweat dripped down his temples. His breath came in short gasps. He shoved the door open, stepped onto the sun-baked asphalt, and stared at his stalled machine like it had committed betrayal. Behind him, the Mustang's gentle rumble grew louder. Not fast, not flashy, just steady like a metronome. People running alongside the cars slowed, confusion replacing excitement. One whispered, "Is the Porsche broken?" Another said, No way. No way that just happened. JT's Mustang approached, its aged body rattling slightly over bumps. Sunlight glinted off the faded chrome trim. He slowed as he reached Sterling's disabled Porsche, leaning out the window. His voice remained low and even. Need a ride? Sterling's face went pale. You can't be serious. JT reached over and unlocked the passenger door. The soft click echoed louder than the murmuring crowd behind them. Race isn't over. You want to finish or not? The workers caught up, surrounding the Porsche with wide eyes and open mouths. Someone gasped. He actually broke down? Another laughed nervously, the sound hollow and uncertain. Sterling hesitated. Cameras pointed directly at him. Investors stared, frozen in disbelief. Every passing second amplified his humiliation. He swallowed hard and climbed into the Mustang without speaking, lowering himself into the cracked leather passenger seat. The Mustang rolled forward again, slow, reliable, dignified, the pace nobody had respected 5 minutes earlier. Bystanders parted, watching the surreal scene unfold. The arrogant Texio riding shotgun in the very car he'd mocked. People whispered as they filmed. This is absolutely insane. Another voice said, he's actually riding with him. This is legendary. The Mustang continued toward the finish line, its engine humming like a quiet sermon about underestimating people. JT didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He didn't even glance at Sterling. He just drove, steady, controlled, present. And in that strange, uncomfortable quiet, Sterling realized something that sent ice through his veins. For the first time all afternoon, he wasn't in control of anything. The Mustang crossed the finish line with no fanfare whatsoever. No roar, no celebration, just a gentle rumble that made the moment feel even more surreal. Workers and investors crowded the line, phones recording from every angle. When the vintage car stopped, all eyes locked on the passenger door. It opened. Sterling stepped out. His face was ashen. His designer shirt plastered his back with sweat and shame. Cameras zoomed closer, capturing every micro-expression. The tightness in his jaw, the unsteady breathing, the defeat in his eyes. Someone whispered, he lost his own challenge. Another muttered, dude drove a Porsche and still got carried to the finish line. JT exited slowly, stretching his legs, rubbing his knee like this was just another shift. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. He just stood there, letting reality settle over the crowd. The silence grew dense, heavy with disbelief and secondhand embarrassment. Sterling cleared his throat. Listen, everyone, this wasn't exactly what it looked like. His voice cracked slightly. A camera zoomed in on his face. Investors stepped forward, expressions grim. One said quietly, Marcus, this is catastrophic. Another added, the board is watching the live stream. Sterling scrambled for an explanation. The Porsche had mechanical failure. It's not like A young employee interrupted. You said he could have the company if he won. His tone wasn't disrespectful, just factual. Another worker nodded. We all heard it. It's on like 50 phones. Sterling's lips pressed into a thin line. His hands trembled as he shoved them into his pockets. The weight of collective judgment trapped him. The power he'd wielded for years evaporated like morning fog. Phones continued recording, documenting the slow-motion collapse of a man who'd built his entire identity on dominance. JT finally stepped forward. He wiped his hands on his work towel, met Sterling's eyes directly, and spoke in that same steady voice. I didn't race for your company. I raced because you asked me to. A ripple moved through the crowd. Someone whispered, he's letting him off the hook. Another shook their head. That's character. That's real class. JT continued, I'm not here to take anything from you. Not your position, not your money. I just wanted to finish what you started. Sterling blinked, uncertain he'd heard correctly. The tension in his shoulders loosened fractionally, but the embarrassment remained sharp and unrelenting. The investors moved closer. One said, Marcus, your behavior today reflects catastrophically on Tech Vision. His voice stayed measured but cutting. Another added, you publicly mock an employee on camera. You created a spectacle. You involved clients. The board's chairwoman, who'd arrived minutes earlier, crossed her arms. We can't overlook this level of unprofessional conduct. Not in today's climate. Sterling swallowed hard. His eyes darted around the crowd, searching desperately for an exit strategy. None existed. JT took one small step backward, giving Sterling space to face his consequences alone. No victory speech, no moral grandstanding, just a quiet presence that made the truth impossible to avoid. People kept filming in silence. The power shift was complete, and no announcement was necessary. The board met with Sterling privately in a glass conference room, but the crowd already knew the outcome. Word traveled at internet speed. Suspension, investigation, leadership review, possible termination. Employees whispered as they filtered back inside, replaying the moment the Mustang carried Sterling across the finish line. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others smiled cautiously, unsure how to process such a complete reversal. JT didn't linger for the aftermath. He walked back to his Mustang, moving with the same unhurried rhythm he'd maintained throughout. He checked the door handle, brushed dust from the seat, and eased himself inside like the day was already behind him. A few workers approached, offering quiet congratulations. One said, "You kept your composure, sir." Nothing but respect. JT nodded once. Appreciate it. The chairwoman stopped beside his window. "If you're willing, we'd like you to advise us on improving workplace culture here at TechVision. We saw how you handled this entire situation." Her tone carried genuine respect. JT considered it, then gave a small nod. "If it helps people treat each other better, I'm in." As he drove away, the Mustang's engine hummed to the warm California air. Steady, unbothered, reliable. Behind him, TechVision Industries buzzed with fallout and transformation. Ahead of him, the road stretched open and quiet, exactly how he preferred it. People online replayed the clip for weeks. Not for the race itself, not for the mechanical failure. For the moment the millionaire CEO sat humbled in the passenger seat of the man he'd ridiculed. The lesson hit harder than any engine roar ever could. Consistency beats arrogance. Respect outlasts power. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room ends up steering the entire story. If this moment resonated with you, don't scroll past. There are more stories where arrogance falls and character wins. Hit that subscribe button and catch the next chapter the moment it drops.